Sorry, we're almost reaching the halfway mark of the stream, and when we're gonna reach the halfway mark, we're gonna do a little Q&A session where, you guys can ask me whatever you want. Mostly about the game, I would expect. Like, what do you do in X and Y situation? What makes X weapon better than Y weapon, Just, whatever you guys want to ask, I'll answer, like, one at a time. I'll do that for about 30 minutes. And I think I'm going to start doing that for future streams as well. Have a little Q&A session so that people, maybe they can look forward to asking something directly. And they want to ask me on stream or something. Yeah, one thing I noticed that I didn't talk about that's super important is how, like, when I use Greatsword, I don't run. I'm always walking. Why? Because I'm ready for two things. Like, when you're running like that, I can't stop and then R1. That's too much time. So when I'm walking like this, not only am I blocking, so I can block a swing if it surprises me. I can R1 at a moment's notice, or I can roll. Like, I'm ready for all of these, and my spacing is a lot tighter when I'm not running. And it's funny because, I played a lot with Greatsword. That sort of spacing of just walking, not running, kind of carried over to almost all weapons. I see a lot of good players that run to the side like this, like B-Dubs, for instance, one of the best curved sword player in this game. Could argue he was the best as well when he still played. His playstyle was totally different with curved sword, and it was very effective. He would run a lot from side to side and perfectly spaced running attacks. Like, it was one of the few, like, curved sword players that really used running attacks effectively. While, like, other, like, really good curved sword players would not really preach about running attacks, and because it might leave you open. Like, he didn't. He really used running attacks effectively. And it's a totally different way. Like, someone might not notice it. You're like, oh, that's a PK, it's a PK. But when you spend time on this game, you realize that some people have slightly different habits, and it greatly influences how they play. And when you're running to the side like that constantly, you're always ready to get those nice long-range running attacks. So you see there, for someone who played with a curved sword for so long, he developed another set of habit than I have, like, by not running at all with Greatsword, Little details. Interesting stuff. What I like that I really, like, developed over the years with Greatsword is I play very impatient in general. Like, I have to force myself to play passive or to play, like, very, very methodical. And I'll do that if the opponent is like, on par skill-wise. Like, I'm gonna be forced to adapt because, and I'm gonna adapt. Like, I'm not gonna let someone, like, just outdo my patience, for instance. But, like, what I developed because I didn't want to wait for so long is that's why I started doing the swaps. And if you look at my old stuff, you can see the progression that was made, like, all the way through, like, swapping to Gundyr from soft swapping. Like, it started out like this, guys. That was my setup back then. I had my setup exactly like this. And I played that for most of my time on this game. And what I would do this, soft swap, and then this. And then over time, I realized that I was wasting a lot of times. And it was very effective soft swapping it, by the way. But I was wasting a lot of times and people could see it. So, as things went on, I started doing that by hard swapping the weapon instead. So I started taking my opponents by surprise, and that kind of opened up a lot of possibilities for new attacks or new chains of attack. And I started to anchor my new, like, base of play style around staying with the Greatsword, controlling the pace of the game, which means having eye primer so my opponent can't attack me safely first. So, like, I have the priority when I have the Greatsword out to be the one to aggress first. And then as soon as I get in range, boom, I switch to a weapon that has roll catch potential. That was the new, like, intention behind the strategy here. Is that the same dude that was lagging from before? Yeah. Oh. What's this guy's name? Luna. Best open from neutral with Claymore? I'd say it's very situational. Depends on what your opponent is using. Could be an R1, could be an R2. I'd say the main opening with Greatsword, what I like to do the most is to set our gear properly here. What I like to do the most with Greatsword is to find my range against my opponent. Stay right outside of their range. And then if I enter their range, I want to make them second guess. I don't want them to attack me. I want to make them second guess so that when they come in my range, they don't want to attack me. So I'm going to throw a lot of attacks, usually safely. Like, you see me throwing a lot of R2s that I'm going to turn around like this. Those are not baits. I see people, like, say all the time, yeah, those are baits. They're not baits, guys. Like, I'm throwing these attacks in, right in range of my opponent. Like, if he comes, like, forward, like, there's a certain range where I'm going to attack my opponent, and if he goes forward, he's going to die. Yeah, let's focus on the invasion here. Go back to our poison habit. Is that the same dude from before? Looks like him. Okay, here's the strategy here. We got a teammate. He looks good enough. We want to separate them. We want one of us on one side, the other on the other side. I can't go behind them right now. It's just too clamped up. So I'm waiting to get in the open a bit. And then as soon as we're in the open like this... Oh, there's 4 of them actually. See there, I didn't go through with this because I saw another guy. Don't want to go in there mindlessly. You want an opening where you can actually go through. Like this. See there, now we separated them. I missed that. Was supposed to be a remove parry. Those 3 hits comboed. That's a bait though. Okay, let's go for the host. See there how we transform a 4v2 into 2v1s. Where my teammate is fighting 2 guys, I'm fighting 2 guys. Or your odds are a lot better that way. We don't need to switch weapon here. Wow. Good shit, friend. Very good Q&A. Thanks, Ifo. Really appreciate. So yeah, with Claymore, all in all, you want to do the R2. Right, like, problem is, like, because the attack itself is slow, you need to do it, like, in a range that's very awkward if you commit to it. Like, that's like a range where if the guy is a good player, they can space it. Like, on reaction, instead of rolling it, they can space it on reaction. So that awkward range can be countered by aiming the attack away. That's the idea. But your intent when you throw an R2 should always be to hit your opponent. A lot of times too, like, I will roll, like, especially against slower weapons, or against spears, for instance, that's a little trick. I'll roll away, and then I'll throw an R2. Okay, I'll roll away and throw an R2. That's almost queued, like not a rolling R2, but what I'll do is like they attack me, I'll roll, and then I'll throw an R2 like that. What does that do? If they decide to aggress me following that first attack they did, my attack is not on reaction, it's on prediction. There is no way they can avoid it if they decided in their mind, I'm gonna go and aggress them. Because my attack is already queued, and the hyper armor is fast, the range is large, and if they don't attack me, I don't commit. If I throw an R1, I'm committing, they can space it. If I throw an R2, I aim it away, I'm not committing, they can't space me because I turned away. That's the idea behind throwing the R2s with Greatsword. You either want to throw them in case the guy wants to attack you, or with intent that, looking at his movement, it looks like this guy is about to do a running attack. It looks like this guy is in range to hit me. And then, obviously, because the range is very awkward, you're almost never going to get those, because they're very easy and slow and telegraphed, those R2. So that is the idea. That's why you aim so many R2s away, because 90% of them are not going to reach target, even if they're all intended to reach target. That is your safeguard. That's why you don't want to throw R2s mindlessly when you're super far. That is pointless. That's useless, guys. Don't do that. You're only leaving yourself open for projectiles. Like throwing knives, bombs, and whatnot. And some players have actually tried to abuse my R2 tactics with throwables because they thought in their minds that I was just throwing them as bait and that I was mindlessly throwing them. And let me give you guys a little piece of my story. Throwables have never worked on me for that reason. I don't throw those R2 mindlessly. This is coming, like, the people who use consumables don't understand why I use them or how I use them. And same for you guys. I want you guys to use it properly as well. Okay, we'll take that. Where's the other guy? There he is. Ooh, host is in trouble. Careful, Herald. Yeah, careful, Herald, did I say right? Careful, Herald again. Do it. A good roll there. Not sure what his intentions are. Skip you a bit. Okay, now it's a good time to use the chase down spear. What we're doing here is we're racking up those ghost hits, and maybe even sometimes getting actual hits. One more and he should be poisoned. Look at that. How on point is this? How much AR does my poison infused spear have? 321. That's actually very good, man. That's not bad. That's not good for a spear. But that is not bad damage. Not bad.